Craig with the K Adams here, and I've got the Zhiyun. I get a lot of questions about balancing this and just kind of my setup for this. I like it a lot, especially for weddings compared to like a Ronin or something. It's just much smaller, and if you're using a camera this size and weight, I just think it's perfect for everything that you're doing. So I use Manfrotto rapid release plates just because they work well with this. And the ball head I put on all of my monopods and tripods, and it just works. So the Zhiyun crane comes just like this with this sled, and then they give you like a lens bracket. I don't even use that. So what I do is I use this, and I will place this directly on the sled itself, just with the single included screw that they have. I'm not going to put it on too tight because we're actually going to slide that around for balancing. And I actually put it on backwards. You want this to be out on the outside. And I'll explain why, because I was using the sliding quick release plates with Manfrotto, and it was getting in the way and it just wasn't working. So with this Zhiyun crane, I'm shooting with the A7S Mark II and the 16-35. I think it's pretty great for this style of shooting because you can actually punch in digitally and get a little tighter than 35 if you want to. But the autofocus works really well with this setup because it's native Sony glass on a Sony camera. And the 16, when you're moving like that with like steady motion, looks pretty fantastic. So this is a good size camera for this. But we have gotten a Canon 80D on this before. With what is this, a 10-18 that we're shooting with right now. So you can get different cameras, you just have to be a little creative in how you place it on. I have this on the bottom, so I can just slap that on. And I also have one on the bottom of the Zhiyun crane itself because I actually sometimes put it on a monopod or tripod, and then it can be pretty much mounted very quickly from handheld Zhiyun crane motion stuff to locked down on a tripod or monopod. I'll put this like at the center of the aisle for like a wedding, and you can just shoot right down and then take it right off, set this off to the side, and then like walk backwards after the kiss. Like it's a cool thing that you can do. And I also like the plate on the bottom because you can actually set it on a table or floor and it will help just sit there. You know, a slight bump or something may make it knock over, so you want to be careful, but this does help a little bit. I just like having that. Also, for when I'm holding it, it actually acts, I always joke around, it feels like a lightsaber, but having this on the bottom just helps out with the grip as well. So I'm going to show you how to balance this from start to finish. I kind of messed up all of the different settings here, so I should actually have to do this. So we're going to start with, you have to have the plate facing this way for this setup, and we're just going to open this up. It has a locking. So now it's open. So that's one of the reasons why I like using this, because now that it's locked, I can do that. And there's no way that this could fall out, which is pretty great. You know, if I want to take it off, I would have to switch that and then I could take it off. So it's just an added security with this little thing. Okay. So using that, I can let that kind of sit right there. I'm not turning it on, I'm just balancing it right now. So the first thing I usually do is tilt the camera down. If this was at 16, the lens actually is pushed out, so sometimes it knocks that. So I kind of go to the middle of the balance. Like I may be at 16 sometimes, I may be at 35, so I kind of just go to the middle of what that weight is, and then just balance there. The Zhiyun crane is actually really, really good at, you know, balancing the weight for you, but you just want to balance everything to the middle as much as possible so that the motors in the Zhiyun crane aren't working as much, and you'll get better battery life and better, you know, it'll work better. So we set that to the middle, and I kind of hold this joint right here so it's free to rotate like this, and I just want to kind of bring it to the middle and then figure out which way it's going. So I will undo this because we're working on this right here, and I will actually slide it this way because it's going one way a lot. So now we did it a little too much, and then now it's falling the opposite way. It's falling that way. So now I'm actually going to do that. So now it's a little more to the center. So I'm gonna push that a little bit more. And see, now it doesn't want to fall either way. It's free to go either way. So that's balanced pretty well right there. So I'm just gonna lock that down for the time being, not crazy tight, but you don't want it to move. And I'm gonna bring it back to this position and still holding this joint, we're gonna test this weight. So let go, and now it's falling backwards. So now we want to push the weight that way. So to do that, we actually have to unscrew this base plate here, slide it forward, tighten it, test it. So now it's falling back just a tiny bit. I'm gonna push it forward a little bit more. That was probably too much. All right, let's tighten that down a lot. And that's pretty good. It's not falling forward or back. Because now we adjusted that, it's like a back and forth for this beginning. So we'll go back to the first way that we were balancing, and that looks pretty good to me. So now the camera will sit by itself in this axis, you know, wherever we put it, it just chills. And that's exactly what we want. So that's good for that. So now we're gonna move on to the next axis, which is this. And if we're just holding this joint right here, but then allowing the camera to move up and down like this, it wants to fall towards me every single time. So I'm gonna undo that and slide this. Oop, wrong way actually. So I'm gonna push it out towards you, holding this axis, do another test. Okay, very close, but it's falling towards me again. So I'm gonna push it a little bit more. Okay, so now it's not falling at all. It's directly in the middle, so we'll tighten that down. That's finalized. So now I want to point out that the joint is actually, there's like a little hole here now. So I push this in a little bit, and that's totally fine. As long as it doesn't push in too far and it does lock, you can push that in so that there's like a hole here. Just depends on your camera, lens, weight. So these two axes are pretty good. The last one's a little bit more tricky. We're gonna have to pull it down to right here. Okay, so now what I like to do is try to make this as flat as possible on a table. And then if you push up against this joint right here, but then allow this to move, it will help. So hold on, let me get my bearings right. Okay, there we go. So now we want this axis to not fall in the middle. So bringing it to this position, it wants to fall towards me again, very heavily. So what we're going to do, it's kind of odd, but doing this by yourself, it helps to do that so that you can change this. We just loosen that up, and I'm actually pulling this out towards the camera. This is a tricky one. Okay, so now I'm going to test it again. It's still falling towards me. I'm going to pull it out even more. Okay, let it go, and it's pretty set. Very close. Okay, gotta tighten that down. It's good enough. Okay, so now bring the camera back. I think it depends on if you're right-handed or left-handed, but I want this joint to be on this side of me, so that because I'm right-handed and I want to be able to read the screen. So making sure all of the joints are locked down so that none of them are moving. Okay, so that should be good. So now the camera is pretty close to just being perfectly balanced on all axes. And it's okay that it's close enough, because especially with the zoom lens, because I will be changing the balance of the lens a little bit, but it's just small enough so that it works. The Zhiyun can handle that. So now we fire it up by just clicking and holding this. You see it engage, and there we go. It's in majestic mode, and it's good to go. You can go into the app to test to see how much each of the joints are working, but this is 100% good to go. I'm pretty happy with this. You definitely want to turn on the info with the leveling just to make sure that the level's okay, because you can touch that button once, actually twice, I believe, and you can change the axis. So whenever I do a shoot, I always make sure that this is level, and then you can click that button once, and you can actually see the level lines there. So that's good. Okay, so we click that back, it's 100% good to go. So now here are some stable shots of Adam here. Here, why don't you move over there? We'll track you. So now this is the Zhiyun at 16 mil. Works pretty well. We'll turn on autofocus for you. So there we go. 100% stabilized, works pretty well. I recommend this over the Ronin. It's pretty fun. Everything that I talk about here is in the description below if you want to check that out. I have a full gear kit for everything that I recommend, including this stuff here for the day of the wedding if you want to check that out as well. Link in the description. If you have any comments or questions about this process, I'm happy to help out. Comment. I'll check that out and see you there. But until next time, thank you for watching. Peace. That drone video, courtesy of Adam. These YouTube channel radio shows are fascinating to me. They have like tips, progress, you can subscribe, but this is live. It's a live radio show right now. So I forgot I was wearing this, and I am out in public with a shirt with my own name on it.